For a while in the beginning of my journey with painting, I finished pieces and the techniques themselves were okay. I was able to arrive at a level of realism that I enjoyed, but still something felt off. The colors felt disconnected, chaotic, all over the place. My paintings just lacked that cohesive, professional look that so many watercolor artists that I admire have. And once I finally realized that it was an issue with color harmony, and I started delving deeper into this topic and actually using color with more intention and strategy, everything started clicking into place. Color harmony has to do with how different hues work together in a visual composition. When colors look balanced and related, the piece as a whole looks a lot more unified and aesthetic to the viewer. Not to mention, we're also better able to communicate a mood or story to the viewer by using color with intention. When color harmony isn't there, hues compete too much with each other. They feel scattered, and you can create feelings of tension and overwhelm and confusion on the viewer. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing 5 strategies that you can start incorporating today, which are going to help you ensure much better results, specifically when it comes to use of color. As I go through these tips, I'm also going to be sharing a time lapse of a line and wash piece so that you can see these ideas in action. So jumping right into tip number 1, and this one is to use a limited color palette. Before starting your painting, make sure to plan and choose the specific paint colors that you're going to be bringing in. You can do color studies in the form of thumbnails, or you can even just do some quick color swatching, and make sure that you test out different color mixtures that you're thinking of using before actually moving forward to ensure that you arrive at the colors that you desire. Don't bring in unnecessary colors if you don't have to. Try to keep your colors limited to a certain amount. This will force you to repeat colors throughout the piece in different areas and in your color mixtures, and this will lead to more cohesive results. Once you understand color theory and the color wheel, which I'll make sure to link to some of my videos on these topics in the recommended resources below, it becomes a lot easier for you to limit the amount of colors that you're bringing in, because you can create colors that you need by mixing others together. And you're also more aware of how with just a few pigments, you can create this wide array of different colors. In the beginning, I was not doing any planning, and I was just reaching for random colors as I was moving through my painting process. And what I didn't know back then is that I was bringing in more and more of these unrelated colors, and this is what led to scattered results that just didn't feel harmonious. The greater the amount of colors you're using, the more difficult it is to make them work together. Tip number 2, building on that first one, is to repeat colors throughout the piece, and there are different ways that you can do this. One way is to simply repeat the same color in different areas of your piece, and you can use this color in different tints, tones, and shades, or different variations, meaning it doesn't have to be the pure plain color in and of itself. You can mix other colors in, but there's still that underlying hue which will help things feel more connected. For example, if I am working on a seascape and it is a daytime scene and the sky is going to be blue, how can I repeat that same blue in the water? This is not only going to create more color harmony, but simultaneously, because water is reflective, I'm going to make things look more natural. But of course, for the water area, I'm going to be incorporating perhaps a green or even a gray for darker areas in the ripples of water, and so on and so forth. Another thing that I do when painting landscapes and nature scenes is I use aerial or atmospheric perspective, where I add some blue into the trees or even mountains in the faraway distance, which helps me push them back. So I choose the blue that I'm going to be using for that, which may or may not be the same color that I used in the sky, but then I also repeat that same blue, perhaps to darken greens in the plants in the foreground area or in the leaves of trees and so on, or to paint shadow shapes under trees and plants, that kind of thing. You can even choose one same blue or one purple or a gray to use in all shadow areas throughout the scene. Another thing that you can do is use the mother color strategy, where you choose one color and you're going to be adding a little bit or more of this color into other colors, and at the end everything feels a lot more cohesive because most areas of the painting have been influenced by that same color. One of the keys behind creating balanced aesthetic looking compositions is to arrive at a balance between variety and repetition. A decent amount of variety is important in order to keep the piece interesting, but repetition is also important if we're wanting to arrive at cohesive, unified results. And this is important for all elements of art that we're bringing into the piece. Not only color, but also shape, line, texture, value, and so on. When a color is used only once in one single area of the piece, it ends up feeling very isolated, like it doesn't belong there. But once you start repeating that color in different areas of your piece, now the viewer can start making a connection between those areas, and now it feels a lot more intentional, a lot more planned, and that is the distinction. Whether your use of elements of art looks intentional or whether it looks like an accident. If you're wanting to create a sense of chaos, of course, go ahead and use the elements of art in a way that will support that. But it all depends on what you're trying to create, and that is the difference. Whether you're using the elements of art in a strategic way or not. Tip number 3 is to use tried and true color schemes. It's very likely that if you've started delving into color theory, you've heard of the analogous, complementary, triad, tetrad, and so on. All of these are tried and true color schemes that have been used by artists throughout history, and these are essentially groups of colors that work very well together. I'll make sure to link to a few step-by-step tutorials where I show you exactly how I use these color schemes to create fuller pieces or color studies so that you can actually see how this knowledge is implemented when you are planning for a new piece or creating a new piece. A common beginner mistake when you're starting to use color schemes is to think that you can only use those colors in their purest, most saturated form. Remember that when using color schemes, you can use those colors in that scheme in different tints, tones, and shades, and even different variations. Not only this, but you can also bring in neutrals into the piece, meaning browns, even grays or whites, and it'll still be that color scheme. And a quick tip inside of this is when you're starting to use color schemes and you have that specific group of colors that you're going to be using, ask yourself, which is the dominant color? Which is the most important color in this scheme that I want to use more? And which do I want to use less? When using color schemes, you're not looking to bring in equal amounts of each color into the composition. You're going to have more of your dominant color, or it's going to be used in larger areas, and then there are going to be secondary or even tertiary colors in that scheme that are used less. Think of the visual hierarchy that you should be using the colors in specifically for the mood or story that you're trying to tell or convey, and then think of a ratio or percentage that would make sense. So for example, maybe you're using a triad with 3 different colors, and perhaps your percentages are going to be 60, 20, 20. Or maybe you're using a tetrad, which means you're bringing in 4 different colors for that color scheme. Maybe you're doing a 40, 30, 20, 10, something like that for each color. Tip number 4 is to give thought to the 3 properties of color. We've been talking about hue or color throughout this video, but hue is only one of the properties of color. We also have value and saturation. The 3 properties of color are hue, value, and saturation, and I have a full video with examples where I delve deeper into this. I'll make sure to link to it down below in the recommended resources. But the 3 properties of color have to work well together, and in order for you to create the level of contrast and impact that you want to also think about value and saturation. Value refers to the lightness to darkness of any given color, and saturation refers to the purity or intensity of your color, which usually color straight out of the pan or tube is when the color is at its most intense, at its most purest, and when you start adding colors in, it becomes more and more desaturated. You could be making great color choices. Maybe you're already using a limited color palette, maybe you're already repeating colors throughout a piece, maybe you're already using using a color scheme, but if you're not thinking of value and saturation, your piece can still look flat or end up looking very overwhelming for the viewer, like all of your colors are screaming for attention simultaneously. So it's all about pushing and pulling those levers and making sure that that variety that we were talking about before is coming in, not only when it comes to the hues themselves, but how you're using each with a wide range of values and a wide range of saturations. A great way that you can tell if you have achieved a nice range of values for that contrast and that impact and maybe even that depth that you're trying to create is by taking a photo of your piece, opening it up in a photo editing software and removing the color. So desaturating it, turn it into a black and white image. If you see very light areas, a wide range of midtones, and very dark darks, then you'll have achieved a great range of values. But if everything stays within the lighter midtones or everything looks way too dark, that is going to look pretty flat. And when it comes to saturation, you don't want to use all of your colors in their purest, most saturated form, because that'll lead to very chaotic results. We're trying to balance more saturated colors with less saturated colors and even neutrals. Perhaps use the most saturated colors in focal point areas or little key points of interest here and there, and balance that out with less saturated areas or neutrals. Darker and more saturated colors are going to have a heavier visual weight than lighter colors and more muted colors. So it's all about playing with those visual weights. We want to create places where the viewer's eyes can rest, so that not everything is calling for their attention at once. And finally, tip number 5 is especially important for those of us painting with watercolor. And this one is to allow those colors, especially in those larger washes, to interact with each other. When painting with watercolor, usually we're working large to small, general towards specific. We're painting those larger washes first. And when starting with fuller scenes, it is very helpful to notice those larger value shapes, those larger darker areas, those larger lighter areas, those larger midtone areas, and simplify everything into larger shapes, perhaps squinting at your reference photo so that you can simplify things. And this way you can paint those larger areas together at once, even if you'll be moving on to separate them later via more layers and details. You started with a wash that unifies different areas together, usually based on value or hue. A common practice, for example, for watercolor artists who paint urban scenes and landscapes is to paint shadow areas together. Even if those shadows are created by different buildings or cars or trees, they connect those shadow shapes. Another great idea which helps with this integration when painting with watercolor is allowing areas to bleed into each other. So painting a little bit faster and painting that next shape, that area that is adjacent to that other section that you just painted, while that previous section is still wet, is going to allow for that bleeding. That intermixing of colors and areas creates a more unified, cohesive result. So before starting with a new piece, as you sit with that reference photo or whatever it is that you have in front of you in real life, ask yourself, what can I simplify and paint together at once? Something that I struggled with in the beginning as well is arriving at nice looking pieces, but everything felt kind of disconnected, kind of like a collage, like cutouts, like the different elements didn't quite feel like they have a direct interaction with each other, like things naturally do when you're viewing something in real life, right? And by allowing those colors to bleed into each other and looking for ways to connect areas, I was able to improve that tremendously. Color harmony isn't about restricting yourself. It's about really honoring this important element of art and using it in a strategic, intentional way. So make sure that you cover color theory. That is very, very important. Make sure to check out the resources that I'll be leaving for you below if you haven't already. Make sure that you're going in with a plan and use the tips that I have provided today, and you'll arrive at much better results.